As Indiana football prepares for the Big Ten championship game, I think the Hoosiers deserve some clarity from the College Football Playoff Committee. And if they don't get it, just refuse to play the game.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. And thank you so much for being here and making this truly your first listen or your first watch every single day and making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcasting network in the world. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Well, a lot to get to on a loaded show today of Locked On Hoosiers. We'll talk about Indiana basketball moving up in the AP poll, but also moving up in some other rankings that have significant impact as well. Plus, Ryan Day has big things to say about Curt Cignetti, and of course, Curt Cignetti says big things about Ryan Day as well. But you heard the opening right, and I'm not crazy. I think there's a world where if Indiana does not get the clarity that they deserve from the College Football Playoff Committee tonight, before the rankings come out, and then ultimately before Saturday night in Indianapolis, I think there's a world where the Indiana Hoosiers could decline to play in the Big Ten championship game. Now, my everydayers, my true everydayers, know that this is nothing new from me. This is not a new idea. This is not sparking something up the week of the game. This is not clickbait or rage bait or whatever you people want to call it. This is a legitimate take and concern that I have for the Indiana Hoosiers. And this is not new. I have hinted at it and brought this up several times, and Indiana's not the only one that's in this situation. Okay? I want you to look at it like this. The Ohio State Buckeyes are undefeated and the #1 team in the country. Your Indiana Hoosiers are undefeated and the #2 team in the country. So tell me, other than the trophy and the rings and the celebration, tell me what those two teams have to gain by winning the Big Ten championship game this weekend. Ohio State is zero, literally nothing. Ohio State may have more of an argument than Indiana does. But Indiana can simply move up one spot, which if you're talking about a top 4 team with a first round bye, the difference in the first and second seeded team isn't all that much, right? But you start talking about dropping out of the top 4 seeds and having to play the extra game and having a tougher path. That's a different conversation. And so Indiana and Ohio State are in a unique position, as are Georgia and Alabama in the SEC championship game, to where they deserve and should demand clarity from the College Football Playoff Committee. If I am Scott Dolson, the athletic director at IU, if I'm Curt Cignetti, head football coach at Indiana, I sit down, I call the College Football Playoff Committee, right? You call them up and you say, hey, here's what we're thinking. You need to tell us what's going to happen in your final rankings after conference championship weekend. What are you going to do with the Indiana Hoosiers if we win or if we lose? If we win, you pretty much know the answer. You're going to bump up Ohio State or jump over Ohio State. You're going to be the #1 team in the college football playoffs, and you should have the best path to a national championship. That one's pretty obvious, right? But if you lose, if the Indiana Hoosiers lose the Big Ten championship game, the question is, will we be punished? And I think we will. You're telling me that you're trusting the College Football Playoff Committee, that room full of people who clearly don't watch the games, who just get together for a wine and cheese festival in a closed door in a closet somewhere, and then send out one sorry soul to answer questions from them, softball questions on ESPN? You really trust that group of people to do the right thing, to do what's best for college football and do what's best for Indiana and the Hoosiers? Come on, let's not kid ourselves here. And so if I'm Indiana and I'm Curt Cignetti and I'm the athletic department, I demand it in writing that if you are going to move us down and punish us for playing and competing in the Big Ten championship game and coming up short against the number one team in the country, if you're going to move us down because of that, then we don't want to play. That should be Indiana's response. That would be my response. I would simply tell them, I would tell Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner, I would tell both of them, okay, cool. Well, I'm not going to play, and we'll see you in the playoffs. We'll see you as the number 2 team in the country. We'll keep our undefeated season. We'll take the extra week or so of rest and not get injured and not worry about traveling and doing all that mess. We just won't do it. And I think that is the best decision for Indiana if you don't get the clarity from the College Football Playoff Committee, which just going to go ahead and let you know you're not going to get that. So I say you don't play. I think Ohio State should do the same thing. I think Alabama should do the same thing. I think Georgia should do the same thing. Because you look right now at the latest AP poll. Georgia, if you're going off the AP poll, which I know is not a direct reflection of the College Football Playoff poll, but that's what we have until we see the rankings come out tonight. Ohio State 1, Indiana 2. Georgia is now a top 4 team in the country, getting that first round bye. Oh no, we don't get to host a playoff game in Athens or in Eugene or in Bloomington. Who cares? Yes, it's cool and it would be awesome, but being a top 4 seed is what you want. That's the best path to a college football national championship, right? If you're Georgia, why would you play in the SEC title game? If you win, could you get bumped up one more? Maybe. But you're not going to jump both Ohio State and Indiana, so you don't really gain a ton. If you lose, you're going to drop out to either hosting or traveling in your first round playoff game. So I don't think Georgia should play. If Alabama wins, okay, cool. They have something to gain. But if they lose, they could be out of the college football playoff as a 10-2 team, pick up that third loss. They left them out a year ago. They might just do it again. And then there's Ohio State and Indiana. We've gotten to the point where conference championship games in the P4 conferences don't matter. And I hate that. It sucks. It does. Especially for a fan base like us, for the Indiana Hoosiers, for a game that started being played in 2011 that Indiana has never been to. Never sniffed it, right? Other than last year. And a chance to win your first ever Big Ten championship, that means something here. That's historical for Indiana. But folks, my sights are set on something bigger than a Big Ten title. My sights, and I hope Curt Cignetti's sights, and I hope Indiana's sights, are set on a national championship. Sure, the Big Ten title would be awesome. But the national title would be even better. And if you don't get the clarification that you deserve by the College Football Playoff Committee, if they are not willing to put it in writing and sign the bottom of it dotted line and say, Indiana, you will not be punished or moved if you lose the Big Ten championship game. If they're willing to do that, cool. By all means, let's go. We'll see you in Indianapolis Saturday night. Other than that, I'm not playing. I wouldn't do it. And again, you can say I'm making this up or don't believe it. I believe this wholeheartedly. Do I think Indiana will do it? No. I don't. But somebody has to. Somebody needs to. Change is only crazy until it happens. And somebody will. A school will do it. An athletic director will do it. A coach will do it. They'll say thanks, but no thanks. I think Indiana could be a trendsetter. I think Indiana could make history again. If they were to tell the Big Ten and the College Football Playoff, we're not playing in the Big Ten title game. We'll see in the College Football Playoff. Will it happen? Probably not. But I think Indiana should absolutely look into it. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we'll stick to talking about Indiana and Ohio State because they are preparing to play this game this weekend. And Ryan Day had some interesting comments about Curt Cignetti. We'll talk about that coming up next here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. The holidays always feel a little easier when you already know the perfect gift. And Omaha Steaks makes it almost too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to family and friends, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to their door. And this week, it's the best time to jump in because their cyber sale is here and the deals are huge. If you have somebody in your family or you've got a spouse, family member, right? Somebody you just don't know exactly what to get them, maybe an Omaha steak box is the way to go. The quality is exactly what you're looking for. Incredibly tender steaks, rich flavor, and meals that make hosting or weeknight cooking that much easier. So save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale. And for an additional $35 off, use the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com. Promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. See the site for full details. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here again, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And a reminder that the Locked On Podcast Network is the #1 podcasting network in the world. So thank you so much for making that so. Also, thank you so much for an incredible November, man. December's already off to a hot start because of yesterday. Hoping today is the same way. But man, November was incredible. October was historic for us. So thank you so much for making Locked On Hoosiers what it is. All my everydayers, you know who you are. You're the reason this is so successful. And then those of you who continue to find us, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, you follow us on your audio podcasting platforms, and you turn on those notifications wherever you find us, however you want to consume us. Just make sure you never miss a new episode. Plus our live shows on YouTube. We post those on audio. We have so much content for you. I don't want you to miss it. So be sure that you're getting notified every single time we post something on audio or on YouTube. And we're talking about the Big Ten championship game. And I know it's funny that I just went on this whole rant about not playing in the Big Ten championship game, but let's talk about the coaches who are probably going to play in the Big Ten championship game. And look, we know that Curt Cignetti is short with words. Is that the best way to say it? I don't know. He is very particular with his language and doesn't normally branch out and say all that much about the opponent. He always gives them respect. He always starts with that. He talks about their team, what they do well, what Indiana needs to do, and how they need to take care of business, right? He always talks that way. But it's fascinating to hear what other coaches have to say about Curt Cignetti. And when you start talking about comments from Ryan Day, right, the head coach of the #1 ranked team in the country, a national title winning head coach, when he starts to talk about your guy, I find it interesting to sit back and listen. And I did that this week with Ryan Day's Big Ten championship game press conference, and he had some fascinating things and comments about Curt Cignetti. He talked about the confidence that Indiana has playing under Cignetti, and the one that I love is the opening comment he made when he was asked about Curt Cignetti and the confidence of the team. And Ryan Day said, quote, "I don't want to speak for somebody else's program, but when I have listened to Coach Cignetti speak, you can tell he has a system in place. And in that system, he knows what it's supposed to look like. And I think there's a belief within the program and a credibility of his competence as a coach that if you follow his plan, it's going to work." That's from a national championship winning head coach in Ryan Day. Am I the biggest Ryan Day fan? No, I'm not. But the guy wins games. He just got over the hump of Michigan. He's won a national title, and he's got a good chance to win him another one if Indiana or somebody else doesn't slow him down. That's a big comment from him. That's a compliment from Ryan Day. And I think it shows, right? Brian Smith and I talked yesterday about how Indiana can maybe not sneak up on this team in Ohio State, but play better than you did a year ago. And we talked about Indiana being prepared and Indiana being focused in this game. Buddy, let me tell you this. Ohio State will be ready to go. And that team is incredible. I said yesterday that Indiana's ranked #2 in the country for a reason. Ohio State's ranked #1 in the country for a reason. And if anybody is going to have their team ready to go, I believe in Ryan Day as a top 5 coach in college football to make that so. I think Dan Lanning's in that boat. I think Curt Cignetti's in that boat. And maybe a couple of others, Kirby Smart from the SEC at Georgia. Those are the 4 that instantly come to mind to me when it's like, okay, it's a big game. Will they be ready? Will they be prepared? Will they be locked in? Will they have done their work leading up to the game against their opponent to give them the best chance to win? Ryan Day's in that category. And the fact that he's acknowledging that about Curt Cignetti, A, should make you feel good as an Indiana fan. B, should get you excited about what Curt Cignetti is doing right now and what he's going to do, but also maybe make you a little worried because Ohio State is going to be ready to go. Indiana has the full attention of Ohio State. I think I said that right. Ohio State is going to be ready. But bottom line, based off of what Ryan Day is talking about, he had a good quote about the success of Curt Cignetti at Indiana, talking about how the roster turnover and turned it around and made Indiana competitive. And clearly Ryan Day noticed that, being in the same conference, and what Indiana was when Ryan Day got to Ohio State and what Indiana is now as they prepare to meet up on Saturday night. He talked about Fernando Mendoza, did Ryan Day, says he looks very intelligent in terms of his ability to identify pre and post snap scheme, makes those decisions as well. He's accurate. He says he's sneaky athletic, which I think that's pretty accurate, right? I mean, not that we necessarily want Fernando Mendoza taking off and running, but you trust him when he does, and he can pick up yards and extend plays and make things happen when you need him to. And Ryan Day and Ohio State have that in the back of their minds. He also goes on to say, you don't look at him as a dual threat, but he makes a lot of plays with his feet and can extend. And I think that's a big tell for me that Ohio State will have a game plan for Indiana offensively. The idea is for Indiana to come up with a new game plan to overcome that. And I'm not saying that you go away from what got you here, right? You put the ball in the hands of Fernando Mendoza when you have to. When the game's on the line, you put it in his hands. He's the Heisman favorite for a reason. You don't take it away from him, but you can't put it all on him. You have to run the football. Roman Hemby, Kalen Black have to have big games. The offensive line must play well. Must. You have to. You cannot allow Fernando Mendoza to be running for his life, picking himself up off the ground, and having no time to throw the football. If that happens, it's a long night in Indy, okay? Indiana must be able to communicate offensively and be able to pick up delayed blitzes and see different formations, get the football out quickly, make it easy on your quarterback. Because you're going up against NFL-level guys on that defense, plain and simple. NFL-level dudes on the defensive line, in the secondary. Caleb Downs is the best in the country, okay? You have to find ways to beat them and have different ways to do so, whether that's getting the tight ends involved like I've talked about this year with Riley Nowakowski or Holden Stays, whether that's throwing to the running backs out of the backfield. I think that's something Indiana has kind of gone away from a little bit, right? Just a little wheel route. That's all it takes. Pick up the chip block, peel out, dump it off to him. Same thing with the tight end. That one play where it's basically a throwback tight end screen where the whole line pulls one way, quarterback rolls out, toss back to the other, right? Why not throw some of that in there? You're going to have a wrinkle or two. I'm not talking about a flea flicker trick play. I'm just talking about some things that Indiana hasn't necessarily done all season long to overcome the preparations that Ohio State is making. The reason I've talked about Ryan Day's quotes is because he respects Indiana. He respects Curt Cignetti. Not all Ohio State fans do. Most of them don't, actually. But Ryan Day does. And I promise you, it's vice versa, too, that Curt Cignetti respects Ohio State and Ryan Day. How could you not, right? This should be an awesome game. And if it is played, like I think it probably will be, maybe not should, but it should be an awesome game. And these are two of the best coaches in the country with two of the best rosters in the country. And it should just be an awesome night in Indianapolis. So these two coaches are going to be ready. Their teams are going to be ready. And if this game is played, it will be one for the record books. All right, coming up here in our final segment of Lockdown Hoosiers, we'll flip over to basketball for just a couple of minutes because the Hoosiers continue to climb, and not just the AP poll, other big-time rankings as well. We'll talk about that and its significance with a big stretch of games coming up this week, right after this here on Lockdown Hoosiers. Today's episode of Lockdown Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part in events like this. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. Look, it's as easy as this. Pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion and no hunting or fine print that you got to sort through, right? And prices include the fees up front, which I love because there's no last second surprises at checkout. What you see is what you pay. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, Game Time. All right, final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being with us and making this your first listen or your first watch, however you're taking this in today. You're part of your every single day, whether it's the weekday or a live show on the weekends or a weeknight, whatever the case may be. We're just happy that you're here, and man, we're happy to be here as well. And I know we've talked a lot of football today, and we will continue to do that leading into the Big Ten championship game. But it's a busy week for Indiana basketball with a game coming up tomorrow night in your Big Ten opener against Minnesota. You've got the game on Saturday afternoon in downtown Indianapolis versus Louisville, which is a top 10 team in the country. But Indiana basketball is on the rise. And I don't know how many people outside of Bloomington or outside of our fan base have taken notice, or even how many people inside the fan base have taken notice, but you were 25th in the AP poll a week ago. You're now ranked 22nd in the country, and Indiana's undefeated. You're 7-0, right? Great start for Darren DeVries, one of the better starts we've seen in the history of Indiana basketball under a first-year head coach at the program. And that's not the only rankings you're moving up in. Some of the, not polls, but I guess the statistical places that matter, right? The net rankings, which just came out for the first time on Monday, and KenPom, which updates literally every single day, and so does the net, I believe. Indiana's getting some pretty major respect in those as well. And here's what's good about the net and KenPom. Those are stats. Those are based on stats. And they do not lie. Okay? The tale as old as time is numbers don't lie. And I firmly believe that, but also believe that numbers don't tell the whole story either. And this early in the season, that's what I want to focus on with the net rankings and KenPom. Both are important, and both are used in terms of picking teams for the NCAA tournament and seeding those teams in the NCAA tournament. So you will hear me talk a lot about these rankings throughout the entire season, but I am going to tell you to take this with a slight, half of the pink rock salt, you know what I'm saying? Take that just a little bit, okay? But this is still important. And it's a good sign is what I'm trying to get at here. The idea that Indiana's ranked 22nd in the AP poll for basketball. You are 11th in KenPom or in the net rankings right now. You're ranked 11th in the net rankings in front of Tennessee and behind Michigan State. You currently, right, are 1-0 on neutral site. You're 6-0 at home. And what's so important about the net rankings is your quad 1, your quad 2, your quad 3, and your quad 4 wins, okay? And your games in general. Quad 4, low as low, bad as it gets, okay? Quad 3, a little bit better. Quad 2 is not bad, but quad 1's where you want to focus. Quad 1 is where you want to have a really good record. And the only flaw with the net rankings is you want to have a good record in quad 1, but you want to have a lot of games in quad 1. You can be 2-9 in quad 1, and the NCAA tournament says, yeah, that's pretty good because you played quality games. It's kind of broken, but just stick with me here, okay? Indiana right now, you're 11th in the net, but you have no quad 1 games. You're 1-0 in quad 2, you're 1-0 in quad 3, and you're 5-0 in quad 4. So Kansas State is in there, Marquette is in there, and then all your other games as well. Minnesota, I have to look and see what that's going to be. Their record is not all that great. You could be talking about a quad 3 game with Minnesota. So All that to say with the net, you're doing just fine. You're ranked 11th in the country in the net, and you're going to pick up a quad one game this weekend with Louisville. You've got another one with Kentucky. Penn State, I don't know, but once you get into Big Ten play, man, almost every single night is a quad one game. Here's what's also exciting is KenPom. Now, if you don't know about KenPom, you're going to have to take a deep dive, and maybe we'll do a show or a segment on it at some point. Don't have time for that today. Basically, you talk about deep analytics, offensive, defensive, luck rating, adjusted tempo. I mean, you name it, they got it. This is for nerd of all nerds, and it's awesome, okay? Indiana's ranked 20th in the country in KenPom. You're ranked ahead of Iowa and just behind Kansas. That's pretty solid. And this early in the season, the numbers can be kind of swayed, which is what I was talking about earlier with don't buy into this 100%. But these are all good signs. Indiana's playing good basketball. You're blowing out these teams, and you've looked pretty darn good doing it for the most part. Competition's about to ramp up, sure. But this is a good sign for where you're going. Indiana looks solid offensively. Defensive effort is there, and we'll all come together eventually. You don't turn the ball over. You're one of the best passing teams in America. And when you're on from behind the three-point arc, I don't think there's a team in college basketball that can beat you. Plain and simple. Maybe Michigan, if they play the way they did in Las Vegas. But you see what I'm saying here. All signs are pointing to a good season for Indiana, and we're only 7 games in. Now, we're going to learn a lot with this road trip on Wednesday. We're going to learn a lot against Louisville. We're going to learn a lot against Penn State and against Kentucky and the rest of your non-conference schedule. And then when you get into the heart of Big Ten play. But it's exciting to see what Indiana basketball is doing with a bunch of new players, a brand new staff, and a brand new head coach. And I'm telling you to be excited about what Indiana's up to and what they could do for the rest of December, but then into January and Big Ten play as well. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers, man. Thank you so much for being here. Again, I cannot express how grateful I am for this opportunity, for this job, for you, for everything that Locked On and Locked On Hoosiers has been. It's been incredible, and we're nowhere near done, man. December is going to be awesome for football, basketball, and beyond. We've got you covered, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow us on your audio platforms, okay? And we are back tomorrow for another episode, Hoosier fans. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.